It really is my favorite question. And it started so selfishly. I was new and didn't know a lot. So I just wanted to see what was cool and what wasn't. I never say never is rule number one in life. Because if you say no, it's never going to happen. You've jinxed yourself and now it's going to happen. Again, number one, the answer is endless. Really. I mean, everyone was like, do you feel like you run out of episodes for the podcast? I'm like, no. There are 250,000 people here. I guarantee you I can find 200,000 stories.
Looking for real stories of real people making a difference in the Grand Canyon State? Welcome to Finding Arizona Podcast. We sit down with Arizona's inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and community leaders and give you a front row seat to their journeys, passions, and projects. Whether you're a local trying to find a hidden gem or just enjoy watching someone chase their dreams, Finding Arizona is your go-to place for authentic conversations with a desert twist. New episodes drop weekly, so hit subscribe and start exploring Arizona one story at a time. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose, and as always, we bring someone very special into our doors every week. So today, we're chatting with a local storyteller, connector, and community champion, Alicia Haygood. Alicia is the owner and publisher of Scottsdale, a city lifestyle magazine, and a publication that highlights the people, places, and culture that make Scottsdale shine. She is also the creator and host of Scottsdale Vibes podcast, where she brings listeners the latest happenings, inspiring local voices, and insider insights into one of Arizona's most vibrant cities. Today, we're going to explore how Alicia turned her passion for storytelling into multiple thriving media ventures, how she builds community through content, and what advice she has for others dreaming of creating businesses that spotlights people and place. Let's go into it with Alicia. Alicia, welcome.
Well, thank you. I feel like that's enough said. Mic drop, and thank you for a great episode.
Appreciate that. I mean, we were talking a little bit off air about this, where we were just like, complimenting each other. And again, I am very much like a believer that this is a small world. We actually have a lot of people that we've crossed paths with. And it's so good that we're able to be like connectors like that, where we're just chuckling over the fact it's like, oh yeah, she said hi, by the way. And I'm like, this is amazing. It's already starting off so wonderfully. So the other thing too is, there, as soon as I saw a couple of your highlights and your videos, I was like, oh, she's got a Ravenscroft sticker on her laptop. And I was like, there's another connection right there. And then you've also done an episode with a couple of our friends. It's just, again, one of those situations where it's like, oh my, holy moly, we've got a lot of people in common.
I think it's one of those things I've learned. I've lived all over the nation, as my, listeners know. My husband's job kind of took us everywhere. And so we've been here 6 years, and I've really learned that Scottsdale is a really small, big city in that sense. And as large as it is, everyone is connected in some form or fashion. And I think it's really interesting, the more, especially for such a melting pot of a city, how connected we are in our network of a city of Scottsdale alone.
Absolutely. And so when people, we'll get into it, because I have this thing where it's essentially, people are like making suggestions like, did you paint yourself into a corner with the name Finding Arizona podcast? And I was like, no, because the state is so massive, on top of just always something going on, whether it's here in the greater Phoenix area or just, again, in a singular city, Scottsdale. There's something always changing, always evolving. We'll get into it. But I want to ask you the question that we typically ask everyone is, give us a little bit of your origin story. You did also mention your history about like how you and your husband travel, and just give us, before you even got here to the great state of Arizona or Scottsdale in general, but it's like, I would love to understand also your mom and dad, like what was growing up like for you?
So I am a Southern girl. I'm a Georgia peach through and through. I have not lived there. I lived there for 26 years, met my husband, and we left. But at the end of the day, it's who I am. You are who you, your roots, where you came from. So I'm
Yeah.
very much a Southern girl at heart. And
And
that's
now I can start to hear the twang. I'm so sorry. Now I was like, you brought it up, and I'm like, I can kind of hear the twinge of the twang there.
y'all is the
Yeah.
best word. I have some of my close friends here say I have what we call Aliciaisms, where I kind of make up words or phrases kind of thing. And I'm like, that's how we talk in the South. I didn't know that wasn't a thing. So I'm learning at the ripe old age of 42 that some of my vocabulary is made up. But that's okay.
Yes,
We'll get
I
there.
will also admit to hearing the mannerisms, the little sayings of the South that are like very unique and
Yep.
very beautiful. I believe it's poetry almost. It's
thanks.
like, yeah, it's like you don't hear it every day, but there are some level of like, yeah, it's a beautiful kind of a twinge of like the past of like
Yeah.
how you guys all kind of congregated in this area, and now you have your Southern sayings. Like it's just really, it's funny, but it's also just, again, you can also notice that in when you don't grow up around it.
Oh yeah, and it's especially here, like we said, because it's such a melting pot. I never thought I'd leave the South ever. Honestly,
Okay.
that's where I love to live. That's where all my family and friends were. My family's still there. Most of my friends have moved away. But I loved growing up there. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a computer programmer, self-taught. So we very much grew up, with working parents. I have a younger sister who we are still very, very close. So just a tight-knit family. My parents are still together. My grandparents lived 20, 30 minutes on each side of us, kind of thing. And it was very wholesome in that way.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And then I went to school for journalism. I went to school at Ole Miss, Ole Miss Rebel. I was going to be a teacher like my mom. I didn't really know what else I wanted to do. In high school, I had to take we had to do a big project our junior year of high school where we had to put on a newscast from the 1800s. And so we had a closed circuit news station in our TV, like most high schools and all schools do now. But that was very high tech in the late 1900s,
Yes,
as my kids say. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the station aspect. I fell in love with the storytelling. And my senior year of high school, my advisor was signing me up for classes. I was needing one more class to like fill a time slot.
Yeah.
She's like, I'd really suggest you take broadcast journalism. And I said, I'm fine. Like, it was fun. It was a good hobby. I enjoyed it. She signed me up behind my back, and it changed my career. I last minute changed my college trajectory to where I was going to pick a journalism school. And so it really was the best decision that she made for me. Miss Bennett was her name. And so it really put me on the path to being a journalist at the end of the day. I was the kid that would stay up late. Literally, I was 11, 12 years old, and I'd stay up to watch Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer. Like, those were my role models growing up.
That's awesome.
Oprah Winfrey, like all those female storytellers were amazing to me, and I loved watching them.
Yeah.
So that's what I always wanted to do, was storytell. So I went to school for that, came back. I thought I was going to be news. The reason I chose broadcast news over newspaper is because I was like, it's much easier to write a 30-second story than like a whole newspaper article.
Yeah.
That's a lie. It's really hard to write a 30-second story and get all the information in. You have to write a long story.
I guess also the other, if you want to be a sycophant about just the idea of like doing that, but also try and make it interesting every time instead of regurgitating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. It was interesting. So again, I thought I was going to go into news. Like, that's what I did. I was going to go back to Atlanta after I graduated, work in the top 5 news station in the nation. Like, that was my job. Monica Kaufman was like the celeb star in our news station at Channel 3 in Atlanta. And I wanted to like be her producer and news director. Like, I always wanted to be behind the scenes. Never wanted to be on camera, never wanted to be on the mic or anything. But I went into sports production instead. And I'm a firm believer that who you know is how you get further in life. And every
Yes.
job I've ever had is because of who I've known and the opportunities I've been given. And my first job was one of those. I started off at Fox Sports South, and the only thing I knew about sports was football, because in the South, you have to be a football fan.
Yes.
Friday Night Lights is a real thing. I went to Ole Miss because Eli Manning was playing there, and they had a good
Nice.
journalism school. So, like, football is very important. And I faked it till I maked it. I would wake up every morning. I'd watch ESPN headline news. I would come up with 3 talking points and go to work every day with those 3 talking points and pretend like I knew what I was talking about. I had no idea about anything. Couldn't tell you a stat, couldn't tell you a player, didn't care, kind of thing. And it
I
was
love it. I love it though. You again, I am a believer in this just for the fact that's like, this is how this whole podcast thing started. I didn't know anything. I thought I had a really cool idea of like, oh, it's local. It's also a way to get to know your neighbor sort of situation, what they're passionate about, what they do. And it snowballed because, again, I don't know exactly what I was doing in the very beginning. I just knew I needed to capture these moments and capture these stories. And so for me, it was kind of, okay, well, we're going to build this thing as we go. And that's kind of how all of this became.
I mean, that's how I got started as well out here. I started sports production and met my husband. We moved to DC. He's in construction industry. So we were always project based for his skill set. So we moved about every 2.5 years to a new state. It wasn't even like a new city. It was like we were moving states every 2 years. And so I did a lot of, in the industry, you're a contractor, you're a freelancer is what we call it. So I did a lot of freelance work. I worked for the Big Ten Network. I did Fox Sports. I worked for an Arabic news station. I did the agency work in DC. So whatever jobs I could keep to stay in the industry is what I did. We did, at one point, I didn't work for a few years. We did 2 states in 3 years, and I got pregnant with my youngest. So I was just unhireable because we were moving too quickly.
Yeah.
So we moved to Scottsdale for a job in 2019, the summer of 2019. I decided that, first of all, I did not know anything about Arizona. I was very upset my husband moved us to the desert. Again, I'm a Southern girl. We like green, we like trees, rain, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So I figured if I just started at the bottom, I knew I could always get up. So we moved in July of 2019.
What a perfect time of year.
That was my mindset. It's like, let's just start at the bottom. It can't get any worse than right here, which it didn't. I literally burnt my bottom of my feet. I learned like you said, you learn everything the hard way. I learned the hard way. You really do have to wear shoes all the time here, kind of thing. All these lessons. And then
the sink or swim sort of situation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
At that point, I told my husband, I was like, I desperately want to work again. I really miss storytelling. I miss being in the control room.
Yeah.
I miss TV. I missed all of those kind of things.
Yeah. Okay.
So with that, at that point, again, we're in the Phoenix market. It's huge, but I was in my late 30s. I was not going to start over on nights and weekends in the industry. I was done with that stage.
Yeah.
So I found podcasting is how this got evolved. And kind of the same thing with you is I found a podcasting company up here in North Scottsdale. He had neighborhood podcast, and the concept was to get to know your neighbors again. Cause like we all grew up, my parents knew the 5 houses to call me at. You come home by dark for dinner and that's that.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's like, oh, I love my neighbors. Well, what's their name? I don't know. We wave and then shut the door.
Exactly.
And I missed that. So I started working for him. We launched 4 neighborhood podcasts here in North Scottsdale.
Beautiful.
It was this guy's like second business. He has another one that was like his main business. And so after a year and a half, I bought that company from him and rebranded it to Scottsdale Vibes. So kept the same concept of get to know your neighbors, but let's get to know the whole city and represent each other rather than neighborhood by neighborhood kind of thing. And so that's how Scottsdale Vibes evolved in 2023.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that story. Again, I'd like to ask these origin stories just because, again, you get to see the roots of a tree. And that's some of my favorite things to kind of witness and kind of understand. And the fact that this lady who's a guardian angel in somewhat, but also just, again, well, who be it to you to sign me up for a class that I didn't want or didn't
Right?
really wasn't thinking about. But again, I go, there's probably a lot of situations where adults feel like they know what's good for you and do these types of things, and it leads you down a path that,
Yeah.
again, is interesting. So I appreciate everything that you kind of divulged and gave us highlights. The highlight reel is always awesome to hear. So I appreciate that. And so I could go down a bunch of different ways, but I kind of want to sum it up to, as you got to Scottsdale here before like 2019, is which one of what's one place you lived that shaped you most, and how did that experience influence your approach to storytelling here in Arizona?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. That was a really hard transition for me, actually, is because I was always used to being the producer and teaching the talent and getting the talent to get to that place. I then had to become the talent, right? So for me, it was really going back to my skills and my training and thinking about every job I had and going on. And when we were on location, thinking about some of the things I would tell the reporter or the talent. And I had to go back and do that. I think that's one of the hardest things that, putting yourself out there on the mic and on camera is so hard because you are so vulnerable at that point. That it was a really, really hard transition for me to come on the mic as a podcaster because I can be very bossy and direct. And that's what I would do behind the scenes. So I had to direct myself. I had to boss myself and produce. And so for me, it was a kind of a little bit of everything that I did, from being on location in sports to working in international news, and talking about that and seeing how those clips and the quickness of coming up with how to talk. One of the things that I've learned that I really took to heart, one of my favorite producers in college, or professors in college, told me was, never write everything down. It's not authentic. Do your stand-ups live. Know an idea. And I had to go back and redo that because I was reading too much. I was over prepared and I wasn't being my authentic self. So running into your authentic self on air is extremely hard because you're so vulnerable. And you want to be a perfectionist, right? Because you don't want to be picked on or called out. So I think for me, it was all of those places and those lessons learned from each stage of my career and having to turn that lessons on me rather than teaching someone else.
Yeah. I appreciate that because, again, I stand from a point of like, I started this with, being in grad school and trying to transition my life from being in school to being a young professional, then going into now where I stand is what I can say is I'm probably somewhere away from the young professional into kind of a career mode and hopefully a little bit farther away from retirement. But again, I do appreciate that because that's something that I can easily empathize with from the standpoint of like my intelligent, like just the person that I am, my intelligence grows from being here and involved with individuals and professionals like yourself. And so I've gained more knowledge just by doing this podcast and being kind of a conduit of a back and forth conversation. And so for me, it's really great that I have these opportunities to reflect on my own journey, seeing myself through your eyes. And it's really it's nice because I never really thought about that standpoint of like, well, I just got onto the mic. I was very comfortable from the very beginning of like getting, because I was a youngster and I just really didn't care about, what I was really getting and saying until I started to reflect as I've gotten more and more down the road of like, the words that I say mean something. So I better be on it. So that's really nice to reflect upon. I would like to talk about the more of the publishing side. If you can give us a little bit of insight on Scottsdale City Lifestyle Magazine. I don't think we got too far into that. So if you can give us a little bit of insight into that life.
Yeah, that was another thing. I never say never is rule number one in life. Because if you say no, it's never going to happen. You've jinxed yourself and now it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Again, never thought I'd be on the microphone, never thought I'd be a podcaster, never thought I'd be a publisher. I was going to stay in TV forever.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
I met the former publisher of Scottsdale City Lifestyle. She was a guest on the podcast a few years ago.
Nice.
And we connected. Tammy Fellows and I really connected. We kept in touch, and she's a serial entrepreneur, like so many in Scottsdale are. So at her next, adventure, I like to say, came up, she called me and she was like, listen, I want you to buy the magazine. I was like, no, again, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I already bought one company. I'm not buying another. She's like, hear me out. She was like, you already do so much for the community with the podcast. The magazine is another entity for you to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're so right. So when I really thought about it, it was just another opportunity for me to do what I love, which is storytelling, which is bragging about people, which is growing our community.
Yeah.
And the magazine gives me an opportunity to do that. So again, in school, you have to take all these publishing classes. So I was aware of magazine layouts and how that worked. Did not enjoy that class a lot for a reason. Like, wasn't my best grade in college. So here we are again, doing something I didn't go to school for. But I love it. And for me to only be in Scottsdale for almost 6.5 years now, and for me to know as many people as I have, and for this to happen right here between you and I, that's because of the magazine and the podcast. No other reason would I've had these opportunities to get to know people. So for me, it's been a lifeline, actually, of sanity and purpose, because I get to meet people and I get to be out there and really engage with the people, the places and events that make Scottsdale so unique. And I love it. I've learned too, I'm sure you've gotten used to, that some people are really great at podcasting and some people are really great at Q&As for an article that's written in a magazine. Right?
Oh yeah.
So it's okay.
That's the insider. Like I have to say to myself, I'm like, there have been a couple articles where I probably should have answered the question a little bit differently, where I'm just like, man, I kick myself because I overthink. And so I'm kind of I'm vice versa. I'm very pleasant to talk to.
Well, have you ever read your interview questions and be like, oh, that's exactly what I sound like if they talk to me? I do that. You write like you talk, because we are talkers. That's our voices are. But I've learned that not everyone can have a 20-minute conversation about themselves or their business, but they can answer questions very beautifully written, and I have an amazing team behind me. So I've learned that. And then some people are made for both. So I will do articles in the magazine, and then we have a podcast episode. It's just another way to expand our community. And so I got into publishing 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And again, it's been a wonderful opportunity for me that I've loved.
I think it's so amazing because you remind me of someone, and I'm hesitant to be like, I don't know why, because it's my aunt. It's just someone that I really do find this female empowerment also on top of that, just being such a go-getter in life and having such a very bright energy to her and how she presents herself and just is energetic about doing the stuff that she's passionate about. So I appreciate, again, you sharing a lot of this insider stuff, because I don't get to express it as much too as insider information. The only other person that would probably understand this conversation a little bit more, is because I talk to her all the time, is my wife, and how she's she gets to see and understands and also from the standpoint of, I am very much the editor of our podcast. So I'm also just like, Jose, where'd your brain go? Where did you go down this path of questioning? It's so, but again, I really do think that it's one of those things where it's like you said, there are wonderful people who are really great businesses and business owners and people, but everyone's different when it comes in front of the microphone, in front of the camera, answering just a simple tell us about yourself scenario in my case. So there's definitely some fun aspects to it. So that's where I go back to the Scottsdale vibe situation, and what's you yourself ask each guest on Scottsdale vibes, what's your favorite Scottsdale vibe? And I'm here to ask, what's your favorite Scottsdale vibe and why?
It really is my favorite question. And It started so selfishly. I was new and didn't know a lot, so I just wanted to see what was cool and what
Yeah.
wasn't. And like I tell everyone at the end of the day, what I do is for selfish reasons. I want to know more. Like
Yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
is. It's to feed me and my inquisitiveness and my desires. And I'm just spreading that on with other people. So I always like to tell people I'm a very gossipy person in a positive way. Like I love to spread the news. I love to tell the tea of
Mhm.
all the great things and people we have in here. So honest to God, my favorite Scottsdale vibe is the people because I've never,
Beautiful.
ever, everywhere I've lived in this nation, felt so welcomed, felt so appreciative, and felt so listened to as I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
here in Scottsdale, I think.
yeah.
So it's really warm feeling to have almost that Southern feeling of kindness and a melting pot of a situation here in Scottsdale. And I think that's wise because we are such a melting pot of a city.
Yeah.
So many of us, myself included, don't have any family here, right? So
Yeah.
my friends, I've had to build my community of family and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I think it makes us appreciate each other in a different light in that sense. So it truly is so basic. It really is the people that make up this community that I love, 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 love.
I I really do. Again, I appreciate that you say that because one of the things that we highlight, and I kind of bring it back to as what I've learned through the time and process of doing this over 10 years is it's the it's the fact that these people are willing to, and it's such a melting pot, is that they're willing to work with one another and know that there are coming from other places, and that kind of invites more, I guess, openness to, it's like, hey, we're not here. And I've noticed this more and more. It's the thing of like community over competition. And
Yes.
that is something that I've highlighted a few times through the things and people that I've talked to. And I think it's something that that Phoenix, the city itself, but overall, a lot of the different cities, Gilbert, all you in Scottsdale, the Peoria, Chandler, all of these different cities coming together and working well within the premise of we're here, we're all from different backgrounds, and let's be open to trying something new or trying to highlight everyone and not trying to compete and be combative to your neighbor. So I really do find it kind of necessary to show that's like that's what people have said more and more about where we are more than anything else, and I'm here to highlight that. That's a
I
lot of
love
fun
it.
for
I
me.
always say it's collaboration over competition, right? There's
Oh,
room
nice.
for
I like
all of
that as
us.
well.
I mean, when I started the podcast, the only other Scottsdale podcasts out there were about religion and
Mhm.
sports. There was nothing just about the city, and that was why I started it. Now there's lots of podcasts just about Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And I've had some of those other podcasters on, and as I tell them, we also are hitting all different demographics because our
Mhm.
age or demographics. We as individuals are, different how we do our interview style and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The more that we share everyone's stories, the more that we're reaching our city and our target
Yeah.
audience, the more we can help each other and grow. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're only as good as our neighbors, and if we're not bringing each
Exactly.
other up, we're all going to collapse together. So I really have felt that. And as a business owner, too, to have other business owners come to me and be like, here's a great person I want to introduce you to, or don't use this company, use this company. I think because
Yeah.
they can fit more of your needs at this level and all that.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you just talk to anyone, they're willing to talk to you back. We just have to remember to ask and not assume. I tell everyone, quit assuming and just ask, and you're going to find your answers with the person sitting next to you a lot, or they're going to
Yeah.
know someone
Yep.
to find the answer for you and be more than willing to help.
Yeah. I like to call it the I have a guy situation. Like
Yes.
that's
Oh gosh. Yeah.
but we're talking a lot about the community and connection, and your work highlights the people and places that make Scottsdale unique. And I would like to know what's one local story that you've covered that made you feel especially connected to the community?
It's so funny you asked that. I cry a lot on my shows. If
I
you,
I get it. No, I'll be
Yeah.
100% honest. The nonprofit side and some of
Yes.
the storytelling comes from the nonprofit side is gut wrenching, and I will be the first to be like, this is going to make me tear. And being that also I'm a father, like
Yeah.
I have a 4-year-old, so it's just one of those situations where it's especially kids, defenseless animals and creatures. So I'm like, it gets me. It gets
Yeah,
to
and
me every time.
I think those are some of the most powerful stories for me are the nonprofits as
Mhm.
well. And
Yeah.
I think it's because I like to come back what I like to call a reality check every now and then, right?
Mhm.
Like I know I am very lucky. We work very hard, but I understand the life I live. With that, I have the opportunity to give back by giving those people a voice, right?
Yeah.
I can't donate $1 million. I wish I could to make a difference, but I can give you a voice. I can give you a
Mhm.
platform to tell your story to find those people to help
Yeah.
you. So I try to do that as much as I can. And that really also came from working in the news business. If
Yeah.
it's true, if it leads, it leads. I worked in an Arabic news station during the Middle Eastern uprisings in like the 2010s. So the stuff that I was seeing was just horrific. And this is
Mhm.
what you guys were not seeing, right? Like we get everything and determine what goes out from there. And I think it was just really sad that we are telling these stories of all this tragedy, but there were people that were helping my news cameramen make sure we could get the live shot, right? We weren't
Yeah.
telling those stories,
Yeah.
the real stories behind the people that are making a difference.
Yeah.
And when I didn't work for a few years, you get out of the news business because it's such an adrenaline that you become addicted to the adrenaline of the business.
Mhm.
You start seeing the same story in a different light. And it really shifted my mind after taking a break from the business and getting out of it of like, wow, there really are rainbows and sunshines out there every day that we're not paying attention to.
Oh,
So I
that's
tell
really
everyone
nice.
I have a strict no politics or religion on my podcast.
Yeah.
Um, I only do politicians at just as city council or just SUSD board or mayoral counties, just
Yeah.
for Scottsdale. It's a very strict policy I have.
Yeah.
Um, but I only do it because those people that are running get to come on and tell their stories without me interrupting. And
Yeah.
again, it's the opportunity to give them a platform for 15 minutes to talk because we don't listen anymore.
Mhm.
And so I really try to give the platform to listen. So those nonprofit stories really hit me hard because I wish I could just be a bajillionaire and give back. And I tell everyone
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
second life, I would love to be, more philanthropic than I can right now.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I really just try to do the best I can in those sense. So those hit me the hardest for
Mhm.
sure.
I understand and can appreciate that because from a standpoint where I come from too, especially being that it's just like it's gut wrenching and I cry and I just like it's hard sometimes to to be the professional and trying to make this story conclude to a final end. But yeah, I just again I go back to my own origin story for as a storyteller is my grandfather, and I grew up on an Indian reservation up north, and that was a lot to do with the tradition of storytelling, and he was a big storyteller. So for me, something that I learned very big and important was like everyone does have an has a story to tell, and it's up to you to give them a chance to be at the table and listen. And so there are some requirements that go along with that. But yes, I agree with you. We have taken on more, I wouldn't say a gamble, but I say opening our doors to more opportunities with those who want to be in politics and be senators and things like that. And so give them the platform to share why and give them the platform to also share where they come from and
Mhm.
why it's important to them to share what they're fighting for. So
And
to
it's also
me,
funny
yeah,
because, you forget people when you ask, I know you've probably had this too, when you ask people to be a guest on your podcast and stuff like that, well, what am I going to talk about? Like, I don't really
yeah,
do this. And it's like, everyone has a story.
yeah,
We just haven't been asked in a while.
yeah,
We forget to talk about ourselves. We just talk about the business or like we talk, talk
mhm,
about our family or whatever, our job, our career. All of those are successful because I tell it because of who you are as an individual.
mhm,
So let's talk about who you are, and then I'll get to why you're here. But
yeah,
I can't bring that story out of what you're successful at because I don't know you yet, right? And
yeah,
that's why. And we forget to talk about ourselves in that sense. But it's so important because that's where that community connection grows, is
yeah.
from getting to know each other on a personal level. So that's important that we never forget our story. And I love that. Your grandfather's very right about that. Listening is so key to
Yeah.
growing.
And I appreciate you. I mean, it means a lot just hearing those words from coming from you, and it's important to me as well as an everyday kind of podcaster researcher, a librarian of sorts. I don't like to say journalist because I don't have the professional credentials or whatever. It just makes me feel weird, but also just someone who cares. I really do care, and I'm passionate about these stories. But one of the things creatively I also do is, I mean, being an editor of sorts to all these stories, and you creatively have two worlds that you're kind of building naturally, or I guess performatively, and that the fact that you have the magazine side and the podcasting side. So this is something to do with that creative balance, and that the fact that you are in very two different creative worlds. How do you balance the visual storytelling of Scottsdale lifestyle, city lifestyle, with the conversational style of Scottsdale vibes?
You have an amazingly talented, dedicated team behind you. That's how. I don't do anything alone, and I'm the first person to admit that. And I tell everyone, I was like, just because you see my face and hear my voice and know my name, know that I'm a very small piece of my successful story, you know?
Yeah.
And so I have a podcast producer. I have a social media team. I have a magazine editor who has a list of writers underneath her. I have an administrative director that goes over every single ad creation in the magazine. You know, I have a very talented team, and I make sure they're the best of the best. They hold themselves to a bar higher than what I set for them. And that's why we're so successful. And I make sure that we're always working to improve month after month. We have weekly meetings, and I listen to everyone's ideas because it's not my idea. What I see out of a story could be something completely different that my editor sees out of a story.
Yeah.
So she and I can talk about what we want the story angle to be, but then you do an interview and it could be something else. So how do we visually put all of that together to make the story pop? And I think that that comes from pictures, having an amazing photographer and Danielle, my editor, Michelle, and her talented team of writings, and all of those people. That is how I'm able to do what I do, is because we have a whole team of creative minds brainstorming and seeing it together, you know? And again, we listen to one another for ideas, and we bounce things off of each other. And sometimes it's a no, I don't like it, or I'm not doing it. And sometimes it's like, okay, let's try it. Why not? You know, what do we have to lose? So I think having that open mindset and surrounding yourself with people that are much more talented than you will bring success in that sense.
I love that. I think it's very important to kind of, as you grow and evolve and change, that you do bring on people who, like you said, put themselves in that high standards and really want to make sure that the growth of the overall plant is going upwards, and rather than trying to hurt the overall bunch. And so it's kudos to you as picking out and being selective for those family members that you're joining on to the team. But again, it's a testament again to, like you said, the team overall and performance, and how much you guys care about these different stories. And so I asked that a question because, again, you creatively, again, are doing two different things, but essentially they do feed one another. They are hand in hand, and it's really great from a network perspective to have these things highlighted and shown. And one of the things that I think we were talking about our connections is, and I just want to shout them out, is Luke and Eric over at Eat Drink, or not Eat Drink, over at yes, Tap That. They are essentially two really very important people to me, just because friendship wise they're very important, but also just creatively. I think it's such a beautiful essence of like having a podcast that highlights brewers and the people behind the restaurants and the chefs and the cooks, but also highlighting that on a visual standpoint and creatively through a magazine, and highlighting those places that the chefs and the owners,
and there are events that they do too. I mean, that's what it's all about. And again, they're great collaborators. They have given me guests and connected with me with people, and vice versa. I mean, that's what it's all about, you know, and that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. And so overall, I think what you have created and have highlighted and shown these episodes that you've been in hundreds of them. I'm just so like, again, I want to be giving your flowers right now, because you are such a prevalent person I think media should highlight and be doing. But I also just want to get behind the scenes with you. So what's a part of your job that listeners might be surprised to learn about, and something that's fun, chaotic, or unexpected?
Oh gosh. So in my industry, because I do what I do, there is, we are very busy going to a lot of events, being seen around the city. I mean, it's very important to be connected in that way so you can
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
awareness to what's going on. So I think people forget I cannot be in every place that I publicize on social media.
Yeah, that
Everyone's
way
like,
you
oh
would
my
run
God.
out of time and
It's
just
like,
not great.
it's just about like, how was that new restaurant opening? How was the hotel? Or how was that gala event? It's like, again, I have a team. We do divide and conquer. And especially during what I call Scottsdale season, is when, I mean, in December, there were times where I had 10 events a week to go
Yeah,
to. And I
yeah,
love that. Like, I feed off of that. So I don't
yeah.
mind it. But I am an introvert at the end. I need to refill my tank up, after so often.
I get it.
So, you may see what I call social media Alicia out there, and I love what I do, and please keep inviting me. But I also, I will send team members to that as
Yeah,
well. My social media team, obviously, because they're great. They're going to be doing the social media post for it,
yeah,
kind of thing. And because we are such a wide demographic of age and everything, I will send appropriate age team members to certain events too, because they will see things differently than I will,
yeah,
kind of thing, because they are going out more. So they might notice more of the bartenders or the party scene where I'm like, I'm starving. What is the food scene like? Right.
yeah,
So even sending different people there to different reasons, you're going to get different content that way.
yeah.
So I'm very particular about what would benefit my readers, what would benefit my listeners,
Mhm.
and all of that. But I tell everyone, send me everything, invite me to everything. The more options I know, the more I can tell your story or to tell the community what's going on. So even if I can't participate or something, it's an easy push I can do on social media for us,
Yeah.
or can I send a team member, all of those things. So people are surprised to, yes, I am very busy, and yes, I am out a lot. You can ask my husband and my kids. But again, I'm not by myself, and it takes
Yeah, I
a
get
lot.
it.
It takes a village in every sense of form of what I do. And I still have two young kids that I'm very active in their life with. I'm, pick up and drop off at school every day, which
Oh,
takes hours away from business as well.
yeah.
So it's a lot, but I honestly, I wouldn't change it at all. I freaking love what I get to do. I mean, I
I've
really do. I
I'm
really
in the same boat. So can I be, I mean, I'm just being frank and honest with you
do.
and just being transparent. It's just like in August turned this into a full-time situation for myself where we were getting bombarded with requests and asking for help and asking for guidance and all of these things, where it got to a point where I just again was like, okay, well, maybe there is an opportunity here to make this work for myself. I've been at it for a while. Why not try and make this a living from it? And so I have taken it to that step. And so for me, the enjoyment of the little things is the fact that friends who are, I consider them friends, clients and guests that have been on the show, want to invite me to certain things that they're highlighting and
Yeah.
sharing with others. And I love doing it. Can I be at every single one of them? No, unfortunately I can't. And
Right.
I sometimes I send my wife
Yeah.
as, just a helping hand and someone who goes in presence of myself. And just, it's a lot of fun though, because it's those types of things and situations that we get to share and highlight that we've always wanted to do. We're just bombarded and burdened with so much of it. It's like we can't be 10
It's a
places at
good
once.
problem to have, as I
Yes,
tell
it's a good
everyone.
problem to have.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you like sharing that. Because again, I can say it, but again, when two people who share kind of similar backgrounds of like yes and ingredients, there's a level of like, oh, there's a level of like unfurthing of the pressure of like, oh yeah, so I'm not the only one in the
No.
boat. And so that's really great. Thank you for sharing that at least. And so one of the things that you did bring up is your creators, your co-creators and stuff like that. So the things that I would like to get is that you are creating stuff on a daily basis, and what you've produced constantly, not only through the magazine side but also the podcast side. I just want to get into the lifestyle of like branding yourself, and what one piece of advice you would give about finding your voice and building a loyal audience.
that's a work in progress every week, right? It never ever goes away. You're constantly having to see what works and what doesn't, because the second something is working, the algorithm's going to change and now you're not, right? So it's always staying on top of it. At the same time, I'm consistent. I've never missed it. I've missed 2 weeks of an episode in 4.5 years because I had laryngitis. And what did that teach you? To record in advance so you have episodes ready to go in case you don't have a voice to record, right?
Yes.
So like live and learn those kind of things. Finding my voice has been the hardest thing. Self-critiquing has been difficult, but I've told myself over and over, and I still do this, people come back every week because I am authentic, because I am real, because I make mistakes, because I didn't know it was pronounced Saguaro and said Sargario for the first 6 months I was here until someone corrected me. And that's how I spoke on the podcast, right? Like, oh, well, no one told me. Being just confident in your mistakes, I think, will just show realism. And that's where we continue to grow. In that sense, I'm very authentic. I truly, what you see is what you get. And I don't know how to be any other way in that sense. So I am approachable. I am loving. I do care. I am out there in the community. I'm all those things that you sense and feel. And I never want to not be those. And I don't know how not to be. So I think just staying true to yourself, consistency, all of that is where the growth comes from. And sticking truly to my morals and values. And they have been tested time and time again, let me tell you. You have to make some tough business decisions, but I have, at the end of the day, been like, we're sticking to our morals. And that's not who we are. The answer is no. I know it'll bring in a lot more money, but I'm not doing it. I'm sticking to my guns.
I've been there.
I'm proud of myself for that, because it's not always easy as a business owner.
It's not. It's very much like, what is it? I don't even have words to put it, but just the claw, the sword, in the air coming down on you. And it's just, sometimes it feels like the easier approach. And I have definitely been there, where there's been plenty of times where down the road of like, hey, more money this way. No, I think I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And so that's how I have felt the last couple of years, where this has just been a lot more. I mean, when I look at my son, even, he's asked questions about people who have been on my podcast. So something to me, the purity about it, whatever, like the legacy, the giving, he might be interested in doing podcasting. So it's like, I'm trying my best to go about this, what I believe is the right way. And so if I am anything, I am also a person who believes that everyone deserves an opportunity to share. So that's kind of been my compass all along, and it's worked out so far, and I'm looking forward to doing more of it. But yeah, there's a lot of things that go into creating these stories and making these things come to life. But at the end of the day, if you're not satisfied as the artist, so to speak, there are limits to what you want and to share as a production team, or as a producer, or as a person who's, funding this and making this all come to life. But yeah, I really do appreciate like that kind of understanding of like, once you put it out there into the world, it is for them to digest and take, and what you put out and is important to you as the artist. So
and that's your name, that's what everyone. I have a really, really bad habit. I cannot remember people's name, but I'll remember the story. It's really hilarious. I tell everyone, you are who you are. You are who you represent yourself as. So first impressions are everything. Take that very seriously. My first impressions about myself can be very hilarious with mistakes or something like that, but I can also be very serious, It just depends. So I always tell people, like, present yourself how you want to be seen. And that's your choice, how you want to be seen. But make it you. Be authentic, and most important.
I really do appreciate you even giving me a moment of your time, because I know how precious it is. It's important that because I found you, and I don't know if it was the fact that you did Eric and Luke, and I was like, oh, I've never come across Scottsdale vibes. And so I just did my cursory, dive into that, and I get curious, and all of that goes into just my childlike nature of like curiosity of like, I want to learn, I want to research, I want to understand. And so to me, that was like the moment of like, once I was like, okay, this is something that I want to participate in. I had to reach out and I was like, okay, this is something that I really do think it's important. I mean, as a podcaster to podcaster, I feel like branding and yourself as like, hey, I'm about it. Like, I like local stuff. I am someone who tells stories, and I just did Ian Schwartz with
Love Ian. He's great.
yeah, he's amazing. And just like, again, those stories are important to me,
Yeah.
and having those kind of individuals and just being about it, just like practicing what you preach. And
Yeah.
so the fact that I found you, I was like, oh, I'd never heard this place, and I really now feel like it's important to be a part of it. And
I
so
love that.
yeah, absolutely. So we're reaching and concluding the end of our conversation. And what that means is I look towards the future. That's kind of like our journey here, is like I kind of go chronologically and looking towards the future dreams for Scottsdale. What is a big dream for you for not only Scottsdale Vibes, but also Scottsdale City Life magazine, lifestyle magazine, something that you haven't done yet, and also, but would you love to see happen?
I feel like that's a really tough question for two reasons. Number
Okay.
one, the answer is endless. Really, I mean, everyone was like, "Do you feel like you run out of episodes for the podcast?" I'm like, "No. There are 250,000 people here. I guarantee you, I can find 200,000 stories." Like, think
Yes.
about that for a second.
Yes.
Same with the magazine, you know? So where do I see it? There's nowhere else to go but up. The answers are endless. The stories are endless. I've even had repetitive guests on because their story has changed since we last talked to them. It's still pertinent to help our community in some form or fashion. So I think I've quit trying to plan so much out as much as I've started to pay attention to the evolution of what's happening in front of me to adapt in that way and grow.
Got it.
So, seeing that what kind of new businesses are coming in town to feature more in the magazine, to see what episodes are working the most in the podcast to feature more of those people, places, or events kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's listening and following the data to see what your readers and listeners want more of and finding more of that. Because that's the trend of what's happening.
Yeah.
So I really just go where people tell me to go in that sense. And then I use that with my creative team to build the story in that sense. But
Love it.
like you said, we're lucky that we have people come to us that want to tell our stories because of who we are. And I think that speaks volumes to our community for supporting us as, business owners to trust us to tell their stories, which I think is the biggest compliment in the world I could ever get.
Same. I 100%. This is all going to be just me agreeing with you, because it's just, again, one of the things that I think just what makes us interconnected is that we are like, I call it cheerleading for these people. And so when I meet another person that does essentially what I do, I just, again, am a big advocate for you and what you do. It's just like we're cheerleading cheerleaders, like cheerleading other people. And so it's always fun. And I love this kind of storytelling, because we just get the beats of what we're doing for our jobs and our careers. It's like we get those beats and those moments, and we share and empathize and love those things that people don't understand or see every day. It's just what we do as a career and a job is essentially, again, our loves and joys stem from those moments and
we don't get to hear all those moments sometimes, right? And I think that's the hardest part of our job, is we don't see the reward at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's there though. I've had listeners come up to me. We did a story in March about an episode in March about the Miracle League, which is a special needs baseball team here in Scottsdale. Yes. I had someone in my neighborhood I ran into at school drop off be like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. We signed my kid up. I didn't even know it existed until I listened." Right. Perfect. If he would have told me that, I wouldn't have known. I don't know how many people they got, because of that, but the podcast helped them. That's what it's all about. So I think that's the hardest part for me. And I've learned, and I don't mind it anymore. You don't know the answers necessarily to who's listening or why and the outcome. You're not getting that ROI. And that's the same thing with the magazine. But I promise you it's there. And when you see that the community is growing, when you see that Miracle League has, doubled their athletes in the past year and a half, it's working. It's all working together. And, for someone who works in marketing and advertising, nothing at the end of the day will beat word of mouth. But how are you going to get that information out? Yeah. Right? That's what the magazine of Scottsdale City Lifestyle, that's what the Scottsdale Vibes podcast, that's where we're going to spread the news about you. So we can all do it together. And the ROI comes from the community support for one another. And that's where we're going to see the biggest growth and the biggest gain. So that's how I know that it's working, is because I keep having people come back for more in different ways in different seasons.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a shout out to your team, but also to you. You at the helm of all of this is something that I believe will do great things together with the community and with everyone who comes to you for help and for guidance and for sharing. But again, it's very cool because I have so many questions that I will ask you off air, and ask you, maybe I would love to get with you in person. And just, again, if I'm breaking the fourth wall, really, it's like, I'll see you tomorrow, because this is just me pre-interviewing for the interview that you have for me tomorrow. But it's overall just, again, there's something about not only you, but also what you put out into the world that I just really enjoy. And I find it very much like not only on brand for what we do here, but also just overall, you seem like a wonderful person to work with. And if I can give a chance to, be a helping hand, or at least do something collaborative with you, that would be amazing and fun.
This is it, right? Yeah. Bring awareness to each other, because our community, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. And so as we conclude today, this is my final question, is just give us a little bit of like where everyone can find you. This is your chance to promote not only the magazine, but also the podcast as well. Give us all the social media handles. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
So you literally everywhere and anywhere. So we are on every social media: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Scottsdale Vibes podcast. Or Scottsdale City Lifestyle is the magazine. My handle is alicia.haygood is where you can find my stuff, but I usually put most of my stuff on my work channels, LinkedIn as well as Alicia Haygood. And again, I tell everyone, have a my call of action is like the community. What do you want to see and hear more of? Give me some small businesses that we could, work with in the magazine. If you have a great story, if it's not for me, then it could be from their podcast or another magazine. There's no such thing as
come to me.
Exactly. This is what I tell everyone. Send me everything. I can differentiate through them to figure out what's for me, and then or I can pass you on to someone else, which I've done numerous times.
Same here, where I'm in the same boat. Like I get people who are like, hey, I had a lot of fun, or hey, I'll get people. It's like, hey, we're looking for a certain time to be published, and I'm like, hey, I can't fit you into that period, but I do have friends that are in the same market who can also probably get you in at that time frame. So it's always like a good way to kind of keep the networking going and keep podcasting alive as well. So it's just one of those things that's like I naturally want to be the same boat. So now I have someone else that I can kind of give the opportunity to as well. So Alicia, I really do find you fascinating and fun to chat with. And so I really do appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time and sharing who you are and what you do. And so before we go, we have an outro for ourselves. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. And all of our social media handle is Finding Arizona Podcast under everything. But we conclude every episode with the kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. And we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.